Hey everyone! Today we're diving into a jaw-dropping family drama that'll leave you questioning, is she the monster? My mother-in-law demanded I quit my job. And what unfolded was a battle of wills that tore our family apart. Secrets, ultimatums, and hidden motives. This story has it all. Have you ever faced a family member who tried to control your life? Let's uncover the truth together. I'm Sarah, a 32-year-old marketing manager, married to Tom for 5 years. We live in a cozy Chicago suburb, juggling careers and dreams of starting a family. Life was good until my mother-in-law, Helen, moved in. At 60 Helens, a force sharp-tongued, traditional, and fiercely opinionated. She'd always been intense, but I chalked it up to her old-school ways. That is, until she dropped a bombshell that changed everything. It was a chilly October evening. Tom and I were unwinding after dinner when Helen sat us down. Her eyes were steely, her voice calm but commanding. "Sarah," she said, "you need to quit your job. It's time to focus on being a proper wife." I froze. My job wasn't just a paycheck. It was my passion, my identity. I laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. But Helen's face didn't crack. She meant every word. Tom shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. I waited for him to speak up, to defend me. But he stayed silent. My stomach churned. "Helen?" I said, voice trembling. "I love my job. It's not up for discussion." She leaned forward, her words cutting like ice. "This family has traditions. Women prioritize home. You're not above that." The room felt suffocating. Traditions? This wasn't the 1950s. I glanced at Tom, desperate for backup, but he just stared at the floor. That night, I lay awake, replaying her words. Quit my job. I'd worked years to climb the ladder, earning respect in a cutthroat industry. Helen knew this. Was she testing me? Or was something deeper at play? I couldn't shake the feeling that her demand wasn't just about tradition. There was a glint in her eye, something calculated. What was she hiding? The next morning, I tried talking to Tom. "Did you know she'd say that I asked?" He sighed, rubbing his temples. "She's just worried about us. Sarah, maybe hear her out." His words stung. Hear her out. This was my career, my life. I felt betrayed, alone. But I wasn't ready to give in. If Helen wanted a fight, she'd get one. Days passed, and Helen's pressure didn't let up. She'd make snide comments over breakfast. "Your office called again. Don't they know you have a husband?" Each jab fueled my resolve. But it also wore me down. I started questioning myself. Was I selfish for wanting both a career and a family? Could I keep fighting her without losing Tom? The tension in our home was palpable, like a storm brewing. What would you do if someone tried to dictate your life like this? By week's end, I noticed Helen watching me, studying my reactions, timing her remarks. It wasn't random. She was pushing buttons, waiting for me to crack. I decided to dig deeper. Why was she so obsessed with controlling me? I started asking Tom about her past, her marriage, anything that might explain her behavior. His answers were vague, but one thing stood out. Helen had quit her own job decades ago, right after marrying Tom's dad. Was she projecting her regrets onto me? I wasn't sure. But I knew one thing: I wouldn't let her win. My job was my lifeline, and I'd fight to keep it. But as the days went on, I realized this wasn't just about a job. It was about power, secrets, and a family dynamic I didn't yet understand. What was Helen really after? Stay with me, this story's just getting started. The air in our house grew thicker after Helen's ultimatum. Every morning, I'd brace myself for her next move, like a boxer dodging punches. My job, my sanctuary, was now a battleground, and Helen was relentless. I'd catch her eyeing me as I left for work. Her lips pursed in silent judgment. Late again. Sarah, she'd say, her tone dripping with disdain. It wasn't just words. It was a campaign to wear me down. Have you ever felt someone trying to chip away at your spirit? I tried to keep things civil. I'd smile, nod, and rush out the door. But inside, I was seething. My marketing job demanded long hours, pitching campaigns to clients who didn't tolerate mistakes. I thrived on the pressure, but Helen's constant jabs made it hard to focus. One day, I flubbed a presentation. My mind stuck on her latest dig. A real wife puts family first. My boss noticed. Everything okay? Sarah, she asked. I lied, said I was fine, but I wasn't. Helen was getting under my skin. Tom wasn't helping. I'd went to him at night, hoping he'd stand up to his mom, but he'd just shrug. She's set in her ways, he'd say, like that excused everything. His passivity stung worse than Helen's words. I started wondering, was he on her side? Our once easy marriage felt like a tightrope, and I was losing my balance. I needed him to choose me. But he wouldn't even meet my eyes when we talked about it. Helen's tactics escalated. She'd rearrange my work schedule on the fridge, circling days I should be home. She'd cook elaborate dinners, then sigh loudly when I got home late, muttering about neglected husbands. It was psychological warfare, and she was a master. I started second-guessing myself. Was I neglecting Tom? Was my ambition tearing us apart? But then I'd remember, this was my life. I wasn't some puppet for her to control. One evening, I snapped. Helen had left a stack of parenting books on my desk, none too subtle. I stormed into the living room, books in hand. What's this? Helen, planning my future for me. She didn't flinch. Someone has to think about this family's priorities, she said coolly. Tom, as usual, said nothing. His silence louder than any argument. I felt like I was screaming into a void. Why was she so fixated on breaking me? I started keeping a journal to cope, jotting down her comments, my feelings, anything to make sense of the chaos. Writing helped me see patterns. Helen wasn't just traditional, she was strategic. She'd ramp up her criticism when Tom was around, like she was performing for him. It made me wonder, was this about me? Or was she trying to prove something to her son I needed answers? But confronting her felt like walking into a trap. At work, I threw myself into a big project, hoping success would drown out the noise at home. But Helen's voice followed me. One night, I got a text from her while I was at the office. Tom's alone again. When will you learn? My hands shook as I read it. She was texting me now. The audacity floored me. I wanted to scream. But instead, I called Tom. Did you ask her to text me? I demanded. He sounded tired. No, Sarah, just try to get along. Get along. I was fighting for my sanity. By now, our home felt like a pressure cooker, ready to explode. I knew I couldn't keep dodging Helen's attacks forever. Something had to give. But what would you let someone push you this far? Or would you fight back? I was ready to push back. But I had no idea how high the stakes would get. This was only the beginning of the storm. The tension in our house was a live wire, sparking with every word Helen threw at me. I tried ignoring her, reasoning with her, but nothing worked. Then came the night. Everything exploded. It was a Friday, and I'd just gotten home from a grueling day at work, my head pounding from client revisions. Helen was waiting in the kitchen, her arms crossed, a smug look on her face. "Sarah," she said, "we need to talk. Now." Her tone was final, like a judge delivering a verdict. Have you ever faced someone who thought they held all the power? I wanted to walk away, but something in her eyes pinned me in place. Tom was there, hovering by the counter, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "What is it?" Helen, I asked, my voice tight. She didn't hesitate. "Your job is ruining this family. I've spoken to Tom, and we agree you're quitting. End of discussion." My heart stopped. I whipped around to Tom, waiting for him to correct her, but he just stared at his shoes. The betrayal cut deeper than her words. "Tom, is this true?" I asked, my voice shaking. He mumbled something about family balance, but it was nonsense. Helen had gotten to him, and he was folding. Rage surged through me. "This is my life," I said, turning to her. "You don't get to decide." She stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. "You're selfish. Sarah, a good wife puts her husband first. You're failing him." Her words were a slap. But what hurt more was Tom's silence. Why wouldn't he fight for me? I couldn't take it anymore. "Enough," I shouted. "I'm not quitting. You don't control me." The room went still. Helen's eyes narrowed, like she was sizing up an opponent. Then she smiled a cold, calculated smile. "We'll see," she said, and walked out. Tom followed her, leaving me alone in the kitchen, my hands trembling. What just happened? Had I drawn a line? Or dug my own grave? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with questions. Why was Helen so determined to break me and Tom? How could he let her manipulate him? I felt like I was losing my husband, my home, everything. But giving up my job wasn't an option. It was more than a career. It was proof I could stand on my own. If I caved, Helen would own me. What would you do if your family ganged up on you like this? The next day, I tried talking to Tom alone. "Why didn't you back me up?" I asked, tears stinging my eyes. He sighed, looking exhausted. "Mom thinks you're choosing work over me. I don't know. Sarah, maybe she's got a point." His words were a punch to the gut. A point I was working to build our future, not to neglect him. I realized then that Helen wasn't just fighting me. She was reshaping how Tom saw me. It was terrifying. I started noticing changes. Tom was distant, spending more time with Helen, listening to her advice. She'd whisper to him when I was around, planting doubts. My confidence wobbled. But I clung to one truth: I wasn't the problem. Helen was orchestrating this, and I needed to know why. Was it control jealousy? Or something darker? By Sunday, the house felt like a battlefield. Helen's smugness grew, like she knew she was winning. I wasn't ready to lose, but I was running out of moves. I needed a plan, and fast. Could I confront her again without pushing Tom further away? The breaking point had come. And the real fight was just beginning. Stay with me. What happens next will shock you. After that explosive night, I knew I couldn't keep fighting Helen blind. Her demand to quit my job wasn't just about tradition. It felt personal, like a vendetta. I needed to understand why she was so hell-bent on controlling me. So, I started digging into her past, looking for clues to her motives. What I found shook me to my core. Have you ever uncovered a secret that made you question everything? I began with Tom, but he was tight-lipped about his mom's history. She's just old-fashioned, he'd say, dodging my questions, frustrated. I turned to other sources. Helen's sister, Aunt Linda, lived a few hours away. We'd only met once, but she seemed warmer, less guarded, on a whim. I called her, keeping it casual. I'm just curious about Helen's life before Tom, I said. Linda hesitated, then let slip something that changed everything. Helen gave up a lot when she married. It wasn't her choice. My pulse raced. Not her choice, I pressed for details. And Linda, after some coaxing, shared a story I never expected. Helen had been a rising star at a law firm in the 80s, sharp and ambitious. But when she married Tom's dad, Richard, his family pressured her to quit. They were wealthy, traditional, and saw her career as a threat to their image. Helen fought it, but Richard sided with his parents. She caved, left her job, and never went back. She was bitter, Linda said. Still is. I hung up, my mind spinning. Helen wasn't just enforcing tradition. She was reliving her own regrets through me. Was she punishing me for the freedom she never had? It made sense. But it didn't explain everything. Why target me so viciously? I needed more. I started snooping through old boxes in our basement, where Helen had stored some of her things. Among faded photos and letters, I found a journal from her early marriage. The entries were raw, angry. They took my life. I'll never forgive them. Them. Richard's family. Or maybe Richard himself. One entry chilled me. If I can't have my dreams, no one will. It was like reading a manifesto. Helen didn't just resent her past. She wanted to control others to feel powerful again. I felt a mix of pity and fear. She'd been wronged. But was that an excuse to ruin my life? What would you do with a secret like this? I confronted Tom with what I'd learned, hoping it'd wake him up. Your mom's projecting her pain onto me, I said, showing him the journal. He skimmed it, then pushed it away. That's ancient history. Sarah, don't make this worse. His denial stung. But I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. He wasn't ready to face it. But the seed was planted. Helen, meanwhile, kept up her campaign. She'd leave articles about work-life balance on my desk, each one a jab. But now I saw her differently. Not just a tyrant, but a woman haunted by her past. It didn't make her less dangerous, though, if anything, it made her more unpredictable. I started wondering, was she capable of worse? Had she done this to anyone else? I reached out to an old friend of Helen's, someone Linda mentioned, over coffee. She hinted at another layer. Helen had clashed with Richard's sister years ago, another career woman, and made her life hell until she left the family. The pattern was clear. Helen targeted women who had what she'd lost. I was her latest mark. But I wasn't going down without a fight. What's her next move? You won't believe what's coming. With Helen's motives laid bare. I felt like I was navigating a minefield. Her past explained her obsession with controlling me. But it didn't solve my bigger problem. Tom. My husband was slipping away, caught in the crossfire of his mother's manipulation and my defiance. I needed him to choose a side mine, but every step I took seemed to push him closer to her. Have you ever felt your partner drift away when you needed them most? Tom's silence during our fights with Helen wasn't just cowardice. It was loyalty to her, ingrained from years of her dominance. I saw it in the way he'd nod at her suggestions or avoid my eyes when she criticized me. After finding her journal, I thought the truth about her past would snap him out of it. But he brushed it off. "She's my mom, Sarah," he said one night, his voice heavy. "She's just trying to help." Help. She was tearing us apart, and he couldn't see it. I tried a softer approach. Over dinner, I opened up about my fears. "Tom, I feel like I'm losing you," I said, my voice cracking. "Your mom's making me choose between my job and our marriage. I need you with me." He looked torn, his fork hovering midair. "I don't want you to choose," he said. "But Mom's got a point. Your hours are crazy. Maybe scale back." His words hit like a betrayal. Scale back. He was echoing Helen. Not supporting me. Helen sensed the wedge between us and bounced. She'd pull Tom aside for talks, her voice low and urgent. I'd catch snippets. "She's not thinking of you, or this family needs stability." Each conversation left Tom more distant, his warmth replaced by doubt. I started finding notes in his pockets. Helen's handwriting, listing concerns about my priorities. She was poisoning him against me. And it was working. What would you do if your spouse's loyalty was being stolen? I confronted him one evening, holding up one of her notes. "What is this? Tom, is she running our marriage now?" He flinched, then got defensive. "She's worried about us. Sarah, you're always at work. I'm alone here. Alone I was fighting for our future. Working late to secure a promotion that'd give us stability. But Helen had twisted it, painting me as neglectful. I felt like I was screaming into a void. The breaking point came when Tom suggested counseling not for us, but for me. "Maybe you're too stressed," he said, parroting Helen's narrative. I was floored. Stressed I was under siege. I realized then that Helen wasn't just after my job. She wanted control over Tom, and I was collateral damage. If I didn't act, I'd lose him completely. I started documenting everything: Helen's notes, her comments, Tom's reactions in my journal. It was my anchor, proof I wasn't crazy. But it wasn't enough. I needed Tom to see the truth, not just hear it. I tried one last time, sitting him down, with no Helen around. "Your mom's manipulating you," I said, laying out the evidence. "She's done this before. To your aunt. She's scared of losing you. So she's pushing me out. For the first time." He didn't argue. He looked at the notes, his face pale. I need to think." He said that was progress, but it came at a cost. Helen noticed Tom's hesitation and doubled down, her attacks sharper, her presence suffocating. I was running out of time to save my marriage. Could I pull Tom back? Or was Helen too entrenched? The next twist in this saga will leave you speechless. Stay with me. I'd drawn a line in the sand, refusing to quit my job. But standing my ground came with a price. Helen's grip on our home tightened, and with Tom wavering, I felt like I was fighting a war on two fronts. The consequences of my defiance hit hard, leaving me isolated and questioning my own strength. Have you ever stood up for yourself, only to feel the world turn against you? Helen's attacks grew more calculated. She stopped with overt jabs and started playing the victim. At dinner, she'd sigh dramatically, saying things like, "I only want what's best for this family, but some people don't care." Her eyes would flicker to me, daring me to respond. Tom would pat her hand, his face a mix of guilt and pity. I was the outsider now, the selfish career woman who'd hurt his poor mother. It was infuriating, but arguing only made me look worse. My work suffered too. The stress of home bled into my focus, and I missed a deadline for a major campaign. My boss pulled me aside, her tone sharp. "Sarah, you're slipping? Fix it." I nodded, but inside, I was crumbling. Helen's voice echoed in my head. "You're failing him." I started working even later, desperate to prove I could handle it all. But it only gave Helen more ammunition. "See," she'd whisper to Tom, "she chooses work over you." Tom's distance grew colder. He'd come home and head straight to his mom, barely speaking to me. Our evenings, once filled with laughter, were now silent, punctuated by Helen's pointed comments. I tried reaching out, cooking his favorite meals, suggesting date nights, but he'd brush me off. "I'm tired." "Sarah," he'd say, his voice flat. I felt like a ghost in my own home. Would you keep fighting for a marriage that felt this broken? The isolation was suffocating. My friends noticed I was withdrawing, but I was too ashamed to admit how bad things had gotten. I'd always been the strong one, the woman who had it together. Now, I was unraveling, and Helen knew it. She'd watch me with this smug satisfaction, like a predator circling a wounded animal. One night, I found a resignation letter template on my desk, her handwriting on a sticky note for your future. The audacity made my blood boil, but it also scared me. She wasn't giving up. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I was tearing our family apart. My journal became my lifeline, where I poured out my fears and anger. One entry read, "Am I the monster here? Or is she breaking me on purpose?" Writing helped, but it couldn't fix the loneliness. I miss Tom. My Tom. The man who'd laugh at my bad jokes and dream with me about our future. He was gone, replaced by someone under Helen's spell. The lowest moment came when I overheard Tom and Helen talking. "She's not the same. Mom," he said, "maybe you're right about her." My heart shattered. Right about me. I wanted to scream, to shake him. But instead, I retreated to our bedroom and cried. I'd fought so hard, but it felt like I was losing everything: my husband, my confidence, my sense of self. Was it worth it? I was on the edge, ready to break, when a glimmer of hope flickered. I got a call from someone unexpected, someone who'd seen Helen's tactics before. Could they help me turn this around? Or was I too far gone? This story's about to take a wild turn. Stick with me to find out who changed everything. I was drowning in Helen's war, my marriage fraying and my confidence in tatters. Just when I thought I'd hit rock bottom, a lifeline appeared, an unexpected ally who saw through Helen's game. This new voice gave me a spark of hope. But could it shift the tide in my favor? Have you ever found help when you least expected it? The call came on a rainy Tuesday. It was Aunt Linda, Helen's sister. Her voice warm but urgent. "Sarah, I heard things aren't good," she said. I hesitated, then spilled everything: Helen's ultimatum, Tom's distance, my isolation. Linda listened, then said, "She did this to me too, years ago. You're not alone." My breath caught. Not alone. Linda explained how Helen had driven a wedge between her and their family, punishing her for pursuing a career. "She's scared of losing control," Linda said. "But you're stronger than I was." Her words lit a fire in me. I wasn't crazy. Helen's tactics were a pattern, not a fluke. Linda offered to talk to Tom, to share her story and expose Helen's playbook. I was nervous but desperate. "Do it," I said. "What would you do with a chance to turn the tables?" Linda came over that weekend. Her presence, a quiet strength. Over coffee. She spoke to Tom alone, recounting how Helen's control had cost her years of family connection. I watched from the kitchen, heart pounding. Tom's face shifted shock, then guilt. When Linda finished, he looked at me, eyes soft for the first time in weeks. "Sarah, I didn't know," he said. It wasn't a full apology, but it was a crack in Helen's armor. Helen sensed the shift and went on the offensive. She cornered me later, her voice sharp. "You're turning my son against me with your lies," she hissed. I stood tall, Linda's words echoing in my mind. "No, Helen, you're doing that yourself." Her eyes flashed with fury. But I saw something new: fear. She wasn't invincible. For the first time, I felt like I had a fighting chance. Tom started asking questions, probing Helen about her past. She deflected, but her answers were shaky. Her confidence rattled. Linda's visit had planted doubts, and I built on them. I showed Tom my journal. Every detail of Helen's manipulation laid bare. "This isn't love," I said. "It's control." He didn't argue, just read in silence. I could see the gears turning. He was waking up. Linda stayed in touch, coaching me on how to stand firm without escalating. "Don't let her bait you," she advised. "Stay calm. Stay you." It was hard. Helen's barbs still stung, but I leaned on Linda's support. I also reached out to my friends, admitting how bad things had gotten. Their encouragement rebuilt my strength. I wasn't alone anymore. The dynamics in our home began to shift. Tom stopped deferring to Helen, even challenging her when she criticized me. "Mom? That's not fair," he said one night, cutting her off. Her jaw tightened, but she backed down. It was small, but it felt like a victory. I started to see glimmers of my old Tom, the man who'd fight for us. Could we rebuild what we'd lost? But Helen wasn't done. She was cornered, and that made her dangerous. I knew the final showdown was coming, and I had to be ready. With Linda's backing and Tom's doubts growing, I felt a surge of hope. But would it be enough? The truth is about to come out, and it's going to shake this family to its core. Stay with me for the final chapter. With Linda's support and Tom's doubts growing, I felt a fragile hope. But Helen wasn't one to surrender. I knew a final confrontation was inevitable, a moment to face her and unravel the truth. The stakes were high: my marriage, my career, my sense of self. Could I end this war without losing everything? Have you ever had to face someone to reclaim your life? It happened on a quiet Sunday morning. Tom and I were in the living room when Helen walked in. Her face a mask of calm. "We need to settle this," she said, her voice steady but edged with steel. I nodded, heart racing. This was it. Tom sat beside me, his presence a small comfort, though I wasn't sure whose side he'd take. "Helen," I said, "why are you so determined to control me?" She bristled, but I pressed on. "Is it because you lost your career? Are you punishing me for what you couldn't have?" Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "You don't know anything," she snapped. But I was done backing down. I pulled out her old journal, the one I'd found, and read aloud. "If I can't have my dreams, no one will." The room went silent. Tom's face paled. Helen's mask cracked, her hands trembling. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "The truth." "Helen," I said. "It's time." She tried to deflect, accusing me of twisting her words. But Tom cut in. "Mom, is it true? Did you resent Dad's family for making you quit?" His voice was soft but firm. The first time he'd challenged her directly. Helen froze, her eyes darting between us. Then, like a dam breaking, she spoke. "They took everything," she said, her voice raw. "My career, my identity. I wanted you to have what I didn't. Sarah, a family, not a job that steals your soul." Her words were laced with pain, but also manipulation. She wasn't sorry, she was justifying herself. I saw my chance. "I'm not you. Helen, I can have both. You don't get to decide my life." Tom reached for my hand, a silent signal he was with me. Helen's face crumpled, not with regret, but with defeat. "You'll regret this," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. She left the room, and for the first time, I felt free. Tom and I talked late into the night. He apologized, admitting he'd been blind to his mom's control. "I should have stood by you," he said, eyes wet. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Helen moved out a week later, retreating to her own place. Our home felt lighter, but the scars remained. I kept my job, nailing that promotion, and Tom and I started counseling to rebuild trust. It's a work in progress, but we're fighting for it. Looking back, I see Helen wasn't a monster, just a woman broken by her past, lashing out to feel whole. But her pain didn't justify her actions. I learned to stand up, not just for my career, but for my worth. What would you take away from this? Share your thoughts below. And if this story hit home, like and subscribe for more. Let's keep exploring the messy, real side of family drama. This story dives into a gripping mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law conflict, where Sarah faces Helen's demand to quit her job. Through 8 parts, we follow Sarah's first-person journey from shock to defiance, uncovering Helen's bitter past as a woman forced to abandon her own career. The drama peaks as Sarah battles isolation, a wavering husband, and Helen's manipulation, finding an ally in Aunt Linda. In the final confrontation, Sarah exposes Helen's motives, reclaiming her life and marriage. The tale highlights themes of control, resilience, and family dynamics, showing how past pain can fuel present conflicts. It's a raw look at standing up to overbearing family while navigating love and self-worth. What's your take? Have you faced a similar family clash? Comment below and share your story.